Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars, welcome to another top 10 list. Today's list is another PlayStation top 10, and today I'm going to talk about my top 10 worst PlayStation games. Now these essentially are games that I reviewed on the PlayStation 4, but all of these you can play on the PlayStation 5 as well, but not that you'll probably want to. Now it's important to note that all these games on this list are games that I personally have reviewed, and you'll be able to see that from the footage you're going to see, because it's actual footage of my reviews, because you'll see me gabbing away in the corner on some of the footage, which is what I used to do on a lot of my game reviews, which I don't generally do anymore. They're usually audio rather than with a video in the corner. Now that's not to say that all these games are absolutely terrible. I mean, if there's anybody out there that's played any of these games and enjoyed them, more power to you. You know, it's just a case of the fact that none of these games were any good as far as I'm concerned. I didn't enjoy my time with them. And to be fair as well, as I've been preparing this top 10 list, as I've been getting the footage ready and everything, I've also realised I don't remember an awful lot about all of these games. And that's usually down to the fact that after I've finished playing and reviewing them, I've never touched them again, mainly because I don't like them and I think they're pretty poor games. So I'll do my best to give you as much information as I can on the games. But if you wanted more detailed information, you can go and watch all the reviews I did, because the reviews are all on the channel for each of these games that I'm mentioning on the list. So I hope you enjoy it. So coming in at number 10 on the list is Football, Tactics and Glory. Now this essentially is a football management type game. Now the PlayStation is really bare bones when it comes to football management games. On the Xbox, especially on Game Pass, you can get Football Manager brand new on Game Pass. The new one's just come out. But we are very, very limited on the PlayStation in regards to a good football management game, and this certainly isn't one of them, unfortunately. I did really want to like this, because at the time I didn't have an Xbox and I couldn't play any of the Football Manager games. So I was really limited to games like this. And it's just not very good. I mean, there is an editor, so you can edit all the names and things to make it more realistic in regards to the club and your favourite club and things. But then you get to the matches, and they are absolutely dull and abysmal to watch. And it's just very, very basic and very, very bare bones. And unfortunately, it doesn't really scratch that itch if you are a Football Manager fan. But if you really spent an awful lot of time editing this game down, right down to every little minute detail, there might be a little bit of enjoyment here for a football fan. Me personally, I'd rather just play Football Manager on the Xbox until PlayStation gets its act together and gets the Football Manager games on the PlayStation. We are going to have to put up with games like this in the meantime, unfortunately. Coming up at number 9 on the list is Narcos, Rise of the Cartels. Again, this is a game I really, really wanted to enjoy, and anybody that watches my content knows that I'm a big fan of turn-based strategy games like XCOM. And this is one of those games. Now, I don't personally watch the TV show, so I don't carry any of that baggage with me, and there are aspects of this game that are actually pretty decent. But the actual turn-based strategy part of this game is awfully put together, in a sense of most turn-based strategy games. You take your turn. All the characters or all the people in your crew take their turn, and then it's the enemy's turn. So you've got time to actually plan what you're going to do in advance with each character. Not in this game. Basically, it's like you take a turn. One character takes a turn, then the one character from the enemy side takes a turn, then it's your turn again, then it's the enemy's. So it's like back and forth, one character after another. So you can't plan anything in advance. You genuinely just find yourself scratching your head with this game, and it just makes it far more frustrating than it needs to be. The other basic mechanics in it work for the most part in regards to a first turn-based strategy game. It's just some of the basic decisions they made make this an unplayable game, really. And fans of turn-based strategy games out there will probably get very, very annoyed and very frustrated with this one very, very quickly. I know I did. So coming up at number 8 on the list is a game called Pathologic 2. Now, hands up, I've never played the first Pathologic. This game looked fairly interesting to me when I picked it up to play it and review it. And then unfortunately I played it and I genuinely had no idea what this game was about. It's some kind of weird, strange horror-like adventure, but I genuinely had no idea what was going on. I didn't really know what to do next. There was very little guidance of what to do. There was from what I remember anyway, there wasn't a great deal of voice acting. It was a lot of text-based stuff, and I just didn't find it atmospheric. I didn't find it user-friendly, and I just found it a bit dull and not frightening. I'm not a fan of horror games anyway, but I couldn't even describe this as a horror game. It's just a bit odd and a bit out there, and it just didn't click with me at all. But I know from my review that there's a couple of people have commented on the review who really like this game, and that's fair enough. It just definitely didn't do it for me. It didn't hold my attention, and the mechanics in the game I found just a little bit too frustrating. So definitely not for me, this one. Now, coming in at number 7 on the list, and this is the game that is the most recent one that I have reviewed on the channel. It's only a few weeks ago and I'll played and reviewed this one. It is Hercule Poirot, The First Cases. Now again, this is a game that would really interest me because I like detective games. There's another Hercule Poirot game, the ABC Murders, that is really good. I've enjoyed that one, and I enjoy the Sherlock Holmes games, LA Noire. I love detective games. Unfortunately, this one is really frustrating to play. The cases aren't particularly interesting. The help system or the tip system in the game, it doesn't work very well at all, and you just end up trying to connect together clues together to try and progress the story forward. None of it makes sense, and you just find yourself wandering about looking for clues or for extra conversations with characters to try and progress forward. It just doesn't work, this game, unfortunately. So yeah, this is definitely one that was very disappointing to me, and at the price point as well was far too expensive as far as I'm concerned. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for this now, but I think it was about $34.99. Far too expensive. This was easily at the most a £19.99 game, and even then that might have been a little bit overpriced. But a real disappointment, because I do like these type of games. I do like detective games, but this one just I found to be really frustrating to play. Now, coming next on the list is Good Dog, Bad Dog. This is a PlayStation VR game. I got this fairly early into my PlayStation VR journey. I was really excited when I got my PlayStation VR. I started picking up as many PlayStation VR games as I could, and this one was a new release when I picked it up. Kind of looked interesting. Who doesn't want to walk around and pretend to be a dog in PlayStation VR? Sounded fun, sounded cool. Unfortunately, it wasn't really. It was pretty dull. It was a very small, isolated world. You could wander about and do some very limited tasks. It didn't feel particularly immersive, and it was, to be honest, very little to do in the game. And Good Dog, Bad Dog, basically, you could do as you're told, or you could be a naughty dog, and, you know, there was no real consequences for either of it, really. So if you wanted to wander around and do, like, a poo everywhere, you could do that, but, you know, you soon get bored of doing the very menial tasks it gives you to do in this game, and it was a very basic VR game, and essentially just not very good. Coming in at number 5 on the list was Fade to Silence. Now, this is a bit of an odd game. It was actually a game I was quite looking forward to. I'd seen a few trailers lead up to the release of this one, and I was bitterly disappointed when I played it. It was like it had a lot of mechanics in it that interested me. You know, it was like an adventure game. It was like a survival game. There was some building mechanics going on in it, but all of those mechanics that I've just mentioned, the combat included, was very basic, and none of them were really particularly done in an interesting way. Everything here is just average at best, and it's a pretty dull story. The graphics are at best PlayStation 3 standard, and it's just not a lot of fun to play. I just didn't enjoy my time playing this one at all. None of it interested me, and which is surprising when you consider that all of the mechanics that he tried to play around with here, he just didn't know what to do with any of the mechanics it was doing, and this was definitely one that I didn't enjoy at all, and one definitely I would suggest to avoid. Coming in at number 4 on the list is Cooking Simulator. This one, again, I was really disappointed with. Again, any of you that watch my content, watch my channel, you know that I like a good chill-out game. And, you know, I really genuinely thought this was going to be a really cool chill-out game to play. I'm not against a bit of cooking in real life. I don't mind all that kind of stuff. I thought this would have been pretty relaxed, pretty chilled, quite creative. And it just turned out to be really frustrating. The mechanics, you know, you kept having to go back to look at the recipe. You couldn't pin the recipe effectively. The recipes were really quite limited when you actually explored them. It was really difficult to do anything in the kitchen without dropping things constantly. It was far too difficult to actually control. The controls were definitely more in tune, certainly with a PC, but probably would have been pretty good in PlayStation VR, potentially, this game. But in the way that they presented it like this, it was just not fun at all. It was massively frustrating. And to be honest, the only enjoyment I got out of this game was actually wrecking the kitchen by blowing it up with all sorts of things. That was out of frustration mainly, but it was the only slithers of real entertainment I got with it. Desperately disappointed with this one, unfortunately, and it's definitely one to avoid. Coming in at number 3 on the list is Grey Skies, a War of the Worlds story. Desperately disappointed with this one. It was essentially garbage. And I got this one because I am a fan of the War of the Worlds, whether it be movie format, book, the Jeff Wayne music, whatever. I mean, who isn't? And we've not really had what you could call an absolutely brilliant War of the Worlds game. And I was hoping this could have, you know, filled the gap in some degree. But no, what we actually get is a really dull walking simulator where you're basically walking around buildings and other areas trying to solve meaningless, dull puzzles and picking up resources. And occasionally, you know, you've got to like do these stealthy things and hide from pointless enemies. It was just really dull and really boring, and you very rarely ever saw any of the tripods or anything like that, only occasionally, and it was just a really terrible game. They've just released another War of the Worlds game, I think fairly recently on the PlayStation. I don't know if it was the same people, but it looked very similar to this, and believe me guys, I avoided it. Coming in at number 2 on the list is This Is The Zodiac speaking. What can I say about this one? That basically the game was broken. I really liked the concept of this game. It was a low budget indie game, obviously. You were essentially investigating the Zodiac and the Zodiac killings. There were some reasonably tense moments in the game where you had to hide from the killer and things early on, and then you just basically broke, and it just wouldn't work anymore. I couldn't progress any further. It was a real gut punch, and it just really disappointed me so much that I couldn't progress any further. I mean, the game itself was nothing groundbreaking. Even if the game had worked beautifully and worked really silky smooth, it wouldn't have been a high score or anything like that. But in the way that it was presented, it was an absolute car wreck of a game and very disappointing. So that's why it's so high on this list. And coming in at number 1 is Theme Park Simulator. Easily the worst game I have played and reviewed on this channel. I was so cross when I paid. I can't remember how much I paid for it, but I paid good money for this, played it, and then I was just absolutely gobsmacked as to how garbage it was. And you felt duped when you got this game, because at the time I was really looking forward, and I was really excited to play Planet Coaster. And I think this game thought it could ride that wave before Planet Coaster was released, and they released this caravan of garbage. And you don't even you don't build a theme park or anything like that. You're essentially, imagine you're in a theme park and you are the guy that works in the CCTV section of the theme park, and that's it. You're basically running cameras and recording people on the rides, things like that. It's absolutely bilge. I was so cross when I played this game. And the only saving grace I've got from playing this game or reviewing it on the channel is I've had a few people comment saying, "Oh, thank you. I was about to buy this game until I watched your review. You've done me a favour, great stuff." And for anybody that have saved their time from playing this game, it's made it worthwhile, I suppose. But yeah, absolutely terrible. It's probably easily one of the worst games on the PlayStation Store. And definitely don't be duped into getting this one, guys. It is really, really terrible. So there you go, guys. That is my top 10 worst games that I have played and reviewed on this channel. Now, obviously, I'm not saying these are the worst games on the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5, because clearly I haven't played all those games. Because generally speaking, I have to work off my own budget. I don't make a lot of money on the channel. And I only get thrown an occasional code to review games. I don't get many at all. Maybe 10% of the games I review on the channel I get a code for, review code. So I paid money for these games, for generally speaking. So I won't generally pre-order or buy a game that I know is going to be bad. I will usually buy a game with the thought that I hope this is going to be good. So generally speaking, all these games on this list I bought thinking or hoping it was going to be a good or at least a decent game, and I ended up being disappointed by them. So that's why they're on this list, basically. So I know there's loads more terrible games out there. Fire them in the comments. Warn the subscribers of this channel what you think are terrible games. So all of you, check out the comments here. If you're looking to avoid some really poor games, maybe you guys can give some suggestions of other games that people can avoid. But I hope you like this list, guys. There's going to be loads more lists coming up in the coming weeks leading up to Christmas. There's going to be my top 10 favourite games of the year. Certainly is going to be one of those lists. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.